We've got a lot of pictures but no video, so I bought a video camera so that we can get a better look at things, have it nicely on color. We pulled apart, pulled the motor back out, pulled the transmission off. The alignment of the transmission to the motor is rotated. We were hoping we could change that because the transmission sits crooked in the car and it doesn't help the shifter line up and things like that. So we found out the way the motor is bolted to the bell housing adapter that we really cannot alter or change anything.
Maybe we can.
That we can tell, huh?
Maybe we can.
You're going to look closer?
Yeah, I just thought of something.
Well, he thought of something new, so we're going to pull the... And the clutch and the pressure plate and the disc are brand new, so we don't have to worry about that. We didn't know that till we pulled it apart. Front suspension has been all torn down and rebuilt, painted. We have quite an elaborate heavy-duty frame to mount the batteries in. But it's got to be safe so that we don't have battery torpedoes if he ever has to hit the brakes hard, or heaven forbid he hits something or somebody pulls out in front of him and he gets in an accident. Those batteries have got to stay put. So the reinforcements have had gussets welded in them. And these reinforcements will be welded in here. And then the frame that goes around the top, right now he's cutting and welding gussets in there because aluminum, even though it's fairly strong, if we put a bolt threaded rod through here and through here and you get a lot of torque up, it'll bend. But these reinforcements tacked in here will help prevent that. The upper frame will have very similar ones on it, and we'll put threaded rod between the two and bolt them down. So everything is here is in and mounted. We'll be putting the we'll be welding these last gussets in. 2 batteries fit here and there. The dash has been welded shut. All the holes that would normally be in the dash for a variety of things are gone. Welded closed and then filled over with Duraglass. We're considering taking this type of material, rather than spending a lot of hours welding holes and so on. We think we're going to trim it off with bigger pieces of this, make it a little shinier, and this is aluminum, so it's quite light. So what have you found on the...
That whole flywheel itself off.
You're going to take the flywheel off and look under it?
Yeah, because the flywheel, the shaft in the center, it's not bolted up,
So what's crooked is the adapter plate. Didn't I see like half a dozen Allen screws?
Yeah, that's in that goes to the engine, the center shaft of the motor.
So you don't know what's holding the adapter plate on until you get the flywheel off.
Right.
Alright, we'll get back to that. We need to try and line up that transmission because it is crooked. We're going to try 15-inch wheels on the car shortly. I found some 124 chassis 15-inch wheels. We do not have really any room to go wider in here. So the wheels I found have a larger offset going in of about 1.5 inches. And we have that kind of room where we can actually do that. So we got the front cage in the other room having gussets welded in it. I'll get a shot of that. And then we'll get back and we start reassembling things. Bodywork is all done. I think we got a lot of photos, but the bumper mounting holes are all filled, front and back. Jack port holes filled over both sides. Door handles sealed off. We'll get pictures of that later, but the door handles are no longer. This is an open coupe, so he can reach over the side of the door to open it. So the outer door handles have been eliminated. Everything we could do to make the vehicle lighter, we're attempting to do. And so we're going to try to go to Mercedes 15-inch aluminum wheels here shortly and see what that looks like on the car. We'll get back again in a little while. This is the front cage, front battery holder, and the controller mounts on the front half of that. And he's going to be welding reinforcing gussets in here so that the threaded rod has better strength. He's taking some burrs off of the aluminum so we don't get cut. Here is an upper frame for the batteries in the rear. And you can see reinforced here. I'm shortly going out to pick up 3/8 threaded rod, and one piece of threaded rod and tubing will be here, and one here, and then one on each, two on the other side. And the same thing here. These will get reinforcements welded in here. Batteries need to stay put during a collision or during hard braking. We cannot afford to have them slide around or come loose. Batteries weigh nearly 70 pounds apiece. This will get reinforcements as well. This is a dual purpose frame. It holds down 6 batteries here and 2 batteries here. We'll get back in a while. Okay, we got this apart. I guess it works better when you take the lens cover off. We got this apart, and we got a problem. It's nothing huge, but everything's bolted direct. This bolt follows through to this housing here, and the next one is at this point. Nice and tight. We're just checking the bolts to make sure they're tight. And after reassemble, I'll get a shot from the front. This adapter fits fine. These bolt holes here that mount this plate are off about 3 or 4 degrees. Rotating the transmission when it's in leans like that to the left, and the reason is that this flat area on the top of the motor here, when it reaches the top of this is rotated. We cannot change that, so we're going to have to shim or mount the actual electric motor a few degrees of rotation to the right by lowering the brackets on one side and raising the brackets on the other side. And we'll have to do that with washers or shims, because the transmission really needs to set level, and right now it isn't. That's why we pulled this all back apart, because it just isn't right. Anyway, we're going to have to throw it back together, and we're going to have to modify the way the motor mounts in. And if we have any more in the future of these adapters, then they're going to have to be bored a little more accurately. So we'll get back in a while. Okay, we've finished the motor mounts, which are where? Okay, they need to be painted up, but those are the rear motor mounts that bolt to the side of the bell housing here on both sides, 2 bolts, and go down to those motor mounts on the suspension down there. In the process of finishing the top hold downs for the batteries, what we've got is a nice reinforced heavy duty top frame sitting on top of the batteries, and we have stainless steel threaded rod with a stainless steel sleeve. And what this does is it prevents the aluminum from compressing too far. There's about a 1/16 of an inch of play in the tubes, and as we tighten this down, they'll compress. The tubes will stop it from squashing too far and bending the aluminum, yet everything will be really, really firm. The only way those batteries are going to go anywhere is if they tear the frame of the car in all of these brackets and everything to pieces, and I doubt that's going to happen. We have 4 of these on the main frame. The secondary frame comes across the back. We have 1 here in the center. The reason being is it's not likely that these batteries are going to lift up over top of these. They may come forward, which these will stop them. We may put another brace, like 1 battery is out right now. We may put another brace through here and under these and over to those and remove these handles, just for the center batteries to be braced a little tighter. Rear ones, entire frame has been drilled, end brackets put on, 4 stainless 3/8 threaded rods with stainless tubes. Again, tiny amount of play. They're not bolted down yet, but we have them on both sides. The actual frame members will be painted black, and the stainless rod and tubing will remain stainless. The main frame that's in the car is not removable easily now without being cut, so it gets painted black as we paint the frame of the car black. And, well, we'll probably paint the upper ones black to match. We could leave them aluminum and polish them a little bit, but we haven't decided that yet. He's just finishing up the final tunnel patch. Now that we have the transmission in, fit, drive shaft attached, everything fitting properly, the shifter working properly. Now, unfortunately, now that everything is fit, everything has to come out. This battery box will be put in, and then everything comes out of the car, and then we paint the undercarriage and paint this entire inside engine compartment along with these frame members. We just now have to fit the threaded rod to the upper frame here, and then that process will be finished. It's coming along. We have windshields here. We will go ahead and get a shot here video-wise of the windshields kind of setting in place, and we'll be back with that shortly. Now the windshields are still wrapped in the shipping plastic because we do not want them to get scratched. Approximately, yeah, that one came right back near the windshield or the dash curvature, and then about a ½ inch forward. Here you go. And this one kind of matching it. Now the steering wheel's been pulled out just a few minutes ago, but that windshield just barely clears the steering wheel, and you can actually see through it or over it, but it's a wind deflector keeping the bugs and the debris out of your face. And so we think it looks better with the pair. I'm in the mock-up stages of the rear goodies for the little bumps behind the driver and passenger that he wants put in here. We have a CAD drawing, and it fits perfectly in the back, and we're going to try and carve those in the next day or so out of high-density styrofoam. and then set them in the car, and if it's approved, then we'll carve a mold and maybe have them formed out of plastic. But we'll get back in a little while, get a little more progress. Okay, here we've got the front 3 batteries. There are 4 batteries total in the front, but this is the carriage that holds the first 3. And again, we've made these stainless steel rods with stainless steel tubing. When this is tightened down, this will flex approximately 1/16 of an inch down. We've got gussets welded in for strength and down here, so these just won't bend. And then we put a lock washer and a nut down here and lock these down. It'll hold them very, very firm. Up here on this mount, on these 4 holes are mounted the controller, and that's mounted in rubber. That will be just behind the grill a bit, just back so that the hood, when it's open, doesn't strike it. So these are ready to put back in once the car is painted. This is Monday, July, what is this? 13th, I believe. Yeah. The motor is ready to come back out, and then we will get underneath and paint the bottom of the car, drop this battery box in here, paint the inside, pull these batteries out, paint this entire framework and the flooring all the way back into the trunk. A little bit more grinding to do on some areas that were repaired. We had to put a new tail panel in, repair some holes in the bottom of the spare tire wells. I took still shots, but we put a patch panel on here, and I believe back here, and one on the other side. Repaired the fender, welded up a couple of holes. The whole top of the fender was punky, and some spots were so soft we had to cut sections right out. And so that's been repaired. Again, the car is only in primer because of all the scraping and leaning on it and what have you. You can see, had we have painted it, we'd have been pretty upset putting stuff in here, small scrapes over here. No dents, but it would have scraped up the new paint job. So not painting it until everything is mounted and operational. Tomorrow this will be primed and prepped inside, and possibly by the afternoon painted black. Depends on however the primer isn't all dry. But for sure by Wednesday this will be painted black, and Thursday of this week, which would be the 16th, we will be reassembling batteries back in, cables, wiring, and what have you. Motor will go back in, front suspension, rear end, and we're hoping that by the probably be Saturday, the 19th, 20th, somewhere in that area, a lot more progress will be shown. The panels just behind the seats with the double humps hopefully will be manufactured by that time, and we'll get a picture of what the windshields and those things look together. I've been fitting wheels on the car to try and determine what will work. Put these Mercedes wheels on. They actually fit, but are so close to trailing arm support. It's a 6.5-inch wheel. The car came with 5s, and I think we're not going to be able to go beyond 6s. So I'm still looking for a 6-inch wheel, lightweight aluminum, hopefully. It appears that, well, this is Harry's trim piece, which is unfortunately quite perforated with holes and the like, and quite tarnished. But what we're going to do, I believe, here is we're going to trim this off with a new piece of aluminum, so that which is proper actually for a 190 SL. an aluminum panel trims this off, and it will give us a location. I actually trimmed this off. I'm not sure how we will work the tonneau cover, but the two humped pieces will actually come right down in before this and curve up. So this may trim them off, so I'm not sure, but we'll put a nice new piece on instead of this tarnished aluminum piece, which doesn't fit very well, has an awful lot of snaps in it, and would need to be totally reconditioned, which would probably cost more than just putting a new one on. So that's where we stand with this piece. We'll get some more shots once the final tunnel covering, that whole area there has been rebuilt, once that's put in. And again, towards the end of this week, we will be doing work actually on door panels and some of the leather work on the door panels, possibly the dash. But we've got to consider painting that area before we actually do the leather on the dash. But there's a lower section of the dash that can be leathered, and I would say in the next 10 days there'll be a huge difference in the way the car looks. So get some shots in the next few days. Now that everything's been fit, battery's been fit, battery mounts have been designed, batteries have been put in, car's been balanced as much as we can at this point for weight. Last night I bought a set of aluminum wheels locally that'll be delivered today, off a 1981 300D. A little over $100 a piece, but got nice lightweight aluminum wheels. We're working at finishing up the tunnel. Now the tunnel looks exactly like it's supposed to. Got some welds to grind down. Batteries removed. We're getting things cleaned up here so that we can paint the bottom of the car. Rear axle will be pulled here next. And by tonight, the bottom of the car will be primed, and tomorrow the bottom and inside of the car will be painted. Probably either a gloss or a semi-gloss black. And I'm working on the bump here. I'm leaving to go get some high-density foam so we can carve these on our mill out of foam and then fit them on here. See what they look like. We'll get back in a while. But we'll get a shot here. We're going to pre-trim what the humps behind the seat are going to look like. Miniaturize them in foam so we can get a better look and take some shots of them to show you what they're going to look like. Make sure that the shape is what we want. So we wrote the program that we sent you pictures of, and this is actually going to carve it out of a block of high-density styrofoam. So we'll get another shot here in a little while, but you can't tell the shape yet. Pretty soon you'll be able to see the shape. So this will give us a better idea of exactly what it's going to look like. If there's any little tweaking we have to do, you're better off doing it on something like this before you make a full-size piece. This is a lot less time than mocking up a full-size piece and having it be wrong.
3.8.
Alright, we're back. We're about halfway through. We've only had about 8 minutes of machining here approximately. You can see how fast it's going. The cutter plunges to 3.5 inches deep. Vacuum cleaner you see here is very, very important. This whole room would be totally a mess from all the styrofoam beads flying everywhere. We're a little over halfway through. So like I said, the actual machining of this will take about 15 minutes. The CAD work, of course, took several hours, but it's necessary to get done so we know what shape we're going to do. But the actual machining won't take long. The company local here donated the foam because it was small for their needs, so they gave it to me. So you can see that we're getting a pretty good shape here. I'll get a shot of this when it's finished. Here it is, almost finished. We're going to trim this here down. He's writing a program, finishing the program for that right now. And then we'll break the sides here off. We'll probably trim this away so we have just the profile. Give us a better idea of how that looks if we actually carve it full size. Right now we're going to go take a look at the car. We're having to alter the seat mount area. The seats, Harry would like them shorter, closer to the floor, and they are too high. These are the seat cross members. We've had, Rob is cutting about 1.25 inches off of them, so the seat will sit lower. You can see here surface rust inside. Give you an idea of what you encounter on these cars. No primer was ever put in these things, so that's what happens, and this is a California car. We're trimmed down the part that he cut off. We will recap this to bring the strength back. This will be welded on here, and then we'll cap off this corner and this, a vertical ledge down. And then the seat will be allowed to set in here, yet be reinforced, but set approximately 1.25 inches lower at the front. The seat mechanism. Now, Harry, I know you took off your seat adjusters because they mounted your seat too high. We took some off of Ford van seats, and so we're putting seat adjusters back on because we're not your height, and so we can't regulate where the seat's going to go. And the seat adjusters will give us an option of about 3 to 4 inches front to back. And if I'm going to drive this, which I intend to do for testing purposes, I'm not as tall as you are and I don't have as long a legs. So both sides will be cut down like this. The seats will be set in here a little shallower like you like. You have a little more clearance between your knees and the steering wheel, which we have to talk about because your steering wheel is junk. We got to determine whether we're going to go back with an original wheel or aftermarket. Nardi wheels are very expensive, in the $1,000 range or more, and so I think there may be an option of a different steering wheel unless you want to go back with an original. Steve is making less noise than Rob. He's caulking all the seams. When this was sandblasted, all the caulk and old 50-some-year-old material that the factory put in was blasted away. He's caulking seams where we've done welding. He's caulking any seams to keep moisture out. And the material he's using is paintable. So it'll be smoothed out, and then we'll be able to paint right over it, and it accepts paint. So pretty much underneath, everything inside here, all the seams will be sealed, keep moisture and humidity out. And we'll get back with some shots after we get these cut down and we get the seat brackets, seats mounted in here, some brackets made. Okay, he's finishing the are to be angled approximately the angle of the seat. So I told him to finish those so we can make sure that the angle looks correct as well. So he's finished the program that's going to cut these to exactly the angle that we need them to be. Give it a shot when they're done. Okay, it's finished. This is a 35% scale. Leans back. It's hard to say. I'll put it on a level surface here. You can see that it leans back. Same contour as the seats. We're not sure how we want to come out here to the body. This is going to kind of have to extend. The body comes back and tapers back in around here. Not sure if we want to come down a little deeper here and flare it out. This kind of looks even to here. We try to keep that balanced. And then this rounds down into the body. We'll keep that same roundness as it comes back here. I kind of like how it comes to a point back here and blends down into the body. Something else we have to remember when the actual part is made, it is not flat here. It is shaped to the contour of the body, which we haven't added in yet. Just trying to get a general idea of our overall shape, whether we like it, its size. This is 35% of the original size. I'm going to get some still shots and send them to Harry and see what he thinks. These are the aluminum battery hold downs, battery frame. This has all been caulked in here, primed, be painted tomorrow. Battery box fabricated, put in a little bit deeper because these batteries are taller. Don't like them hitting the hood when the hood is closed. Spent a good part of the day fitting, trimming, and manufacturing seat brackets. Finishing that up right now. Seat's been fitted. Harry's been concerned that the seat was just too blasted high. We cut these seat frames, or this frame down 1 3/4 inch, 1.5 inches. We lowered the seat brackets, and even though we put slides on, we've measured a couple of 190 SLs, and this top of this seat sits down 2 inches farther down than the standard 190 SL seats. So should be a better fit. If we go any farther down, when the seat's back, this smashes into the tunnel. If we go too much farther to the left, it hits the door. If we lower it down, then the back of the seat hits the cross member here before it's back far enough. And so coming up slightly allows us to go back farther, and it is very close to the battery, very close to this cross member. You can get one finger in between, that's it. So we feel that the seats are where they have to go to use these seats. Tonight I will be finishing up the seat mounts, getting everything fit, and tomorrow the seats go off for upholstery. So plugging along. I'll get a shot of the seat brackets after they're all welded in. I just talked with Harry again the other night. He does want seat belts with shoulder harnesses, and the only thing I've got here looks like it'll work real well is out of a 73 450 SLC coupe. These are the actual seat belt mechanisms here. These are the retractors. These are the ones that would go in towards the center of the car. They're a crazy bastard size, somewhere between 10 and 12. It might be like 11 millimeter fine thread. Okay, the battery went dead on me a few hours ago. Showing the seats, but this time coming back here, showing the battery sitting in a little deeper battery box. We're making a battery top frame for that tomorrow. The aluminum is here cut for this. Now, we completely tore apart and gutted these 450 SLC 1973 seats and seat belts. And we've cut the special nuts. This is a really weird, like an 11 millimeter fine threaded bolt. 12 is too sloppy, 10 won't go on it, so it's a real weird size. So we cut the seats apart and we cut the nuts out. So what we've done is part of the plate that the nut was on is now mounted on that wall. The other one is mounted here on this wall. It will accept this retractable seat belt, which will pull out and go across the passenger side seat. That is finished now. The seat belts are now mounted on the side of the Pacer seats. Pulled the plastic off, took the cage that we cut out of the other seat and welded it on to the backrest rail and mounted the seat belt buckle clip on that end. And this would be the driver's seat, and this would be the passenger seat. We had to disassemble the seats to do it, but those are finished. So the seat bottoms do fit and leave plenty of room for this to sit next to it and come across. I am now drilling out. You can see they're very heavy duty. It's probably 13 to 14 gauge steel, around 90 thousandths thick. These plates will go on the walls over here. Maybe I can pop around and show. It'll be sitting here on this wall. This is the other side plate. That hole will be up here on this side plate. Let me grab that one. Right here. This will get welded in this position. Okay. We'll mark this wall. A hole here about 3/4 of an inch in diameter will be bored. These plates came out of the rear of the 450 SLC. Had to take a lot of the car apart to get to these, but this plate has that special fine threaded nut in it. We're going to drill out these spot welds, salvage this nut. I'm going to punch about a 5/8 to 3/4 hole in that one wall. This will be welded on the back side of that plate. So all you will see on the back side of that plate is a hole with the nut behind it. That nut will sit back in the body just slightly, so it won't be sticking out. And that is the location. Bear with me here. That is the location where the shoulder harness base will be mounted to. And then this shoulder harness has this little buckle that will clip into the lap belt, so you can either use it or not use it, and then it is adjustable here to suit whoever's sitting in the seat. And again, we had to take apart and save every single little threaded bolt that fit it properly, because they are a very special thread and you just can't find them. Apparently not easily. We couldn't find them any place in town. So we'll knock this thing here out tonight. It's about 8:30, 9 o'clock. Thursday evening, I believe the 16th of July. And it's going slower than I would have wanted because we've got to get these seat belts done. I was hoping to have the car painted tomorrow inside and on the bottom. So I'm working late tonight to try and get this so that we can get the seat belts and everything mounted and make everything right. And then shoulder harnesses tomorrow by 10 o'clock should have that done, and then they can start prepping the rest of the car for paint. We also have to drill a hole right through here and weld a nut on the top, and we take a stainless steel rod with a tube, and that will hold down the battery hold down. It'll go down through this nut, and if the rod is a little bit long, it'll go down through that hole and end up down inside the car maybe 1/4 of an inch for adjustment reasons, but that'll hold this battery in place. And once we get her sprayed, it'll need a day to dry. Early next week we should be assembling and not have to pull the motor and stuff out again, because everything does fit and is all rebuilt. We'll get some shots after we get a little more done, maybe the inside and the bottom sprayed. Okay, we're back at the car. Same evening here. I've been working on these seat belts kind of all day. Shoulder harness plates are in place. Both sides, thin in some areas. You can see thin in some areas. You can see I punched a hole through. We'll weld that up tomorrow. I punched a couple of small holes over there. I burned them through where the metal was a little thin. We're picking up a big area here, and a couple thicknesses of metal are welded together there where the wheelhouse inner is. I've drilled holes through. You see all those little spots? Those are holes bored through, and then we plug weld those, so that plate really picks up strength from all that sheet metal in the area. And there's 2 or 3 thicknesses of steel there that all come together. So picking up, this is exactly the same place that the factory puts a flimsy little plate with a nut on it for the shoulder harness. So this is going to be a lot stronger. Well, getting late. It's after 10 o'clock here in Michigan. It's dark as can be outside. Time to go home. We'll finish up the welding tomorrow, get the seats in, and get some more shots. Okay, back to the car. Shoulder harness unit attached, shoulder harness attached. That is a proper location to put these in the most reinforced area we could properly put it to. The shoulder harness just makes it. I mean, just makes it. If you slide the car forward more than an inch or so, the shoulder harness will be too tight for you to move or anything. So I'll talk to Harry. We would have to have new material sewn and made on to the old brackets if he wants them longer. Otherwise, the buckle part works perfectly. Go ahead and take it off. The retractor works perfectly. He's able to put the thing on and slide forward 4 or 5 inches, and then we get about to the end of the. Go ahead and put the seatbelt. Go forward a couple inches. That's like 5 inches. See if the seatbelt still puts on. Still clips.
You can't be much fatter than me though.
Well, yeah, but you're a good 5. You're 6 inches forward.
My knees are hitting the dash here.
Yeah. Now go on back. That's as far back as the seat will go, and you can see that it's just about touching. When we build a compartment closure here, you're almost going to be rubbing on it. And you can use this with and without the shoulder harness. So both will work the same. This is all in and mounted. We're getting everything prepped. He has this box produced now. And we'll be drilling a hole here, welding a nut below, making a stainless steel piece, then pulling this out, and then the car's almost ready to paint. So if the darn rain holds off, we'll be spraying the car this afternoon. We'll get some more shots later. Okay, we are getting ready to spray her tomorrow. The nuts for the hold downs are in. Everything's vacuumed, clean, scrubbed. All the surfaces are Scotch-Brighted. We just cut off stuff that was in the way back here, jack holders, jack handle holders, spare tire hold down bracket, things that aren't going to be used. Took a small dent out of the spare tire well. Everything's taped off. Like I said, Scotch brighted. Tomorrow we'll be taking a solvent to the entire inner body, and just ran out of time today. Take a solvent to the inner body, a tack cloth, and then we're going to prime it. And then the following day we'll spray it black. Okay, we have Harry's car on this cart. We sprayed the inside while it was sitting on the cart where we could get at it. So the inside is all sprayed. And then we attached straps to these bolts and eye hooks to the rear shock towers. And we reprimed the entire bottom of the car. This is a farm implement acrylic enamel primer with a hardener in it. And then we will shoot a farm implement very tough, durable black acrylic enamel onto it. We'll bring it down here. We'll roll the cart under it. Rain held off today for us. This is Saturday. What is the date today? 18th? July 18th, I think. So we got to kick some serious butt, because in a month I want this done. By midweek next week, well, let's just say by midweek or the weekend, this hopefully will have this vehicle traveling in its on its own power. So it's all primed. We'll go over some of the joints along these frame rails. We'll go over a variety of areas, like in the corners here. You can see where the factory, all that type of area, like this, we'll run a bead of urethane seam sealer all the way around it to seal it. Don't want any rust or any corrosion problems in the future. This is real durable primer. The aluminum frames for the batteries are all attached and in and down and primed, and they'll be painted. So we're going to put her back on the cart here. Everything here is painted too. Primed, I should say. We'll get it back on the cart and run it inside. Okay, Sunday morning. It's about 8. I think it's about 8:45, quarter to 9, somewhere in that ballpark. Sunday morning, the 19th. Need to get this caulking done. As a matter of fact, that's my wife calling me, reminding me we got church in a few minutes. I'll be back. Okay, I guess it's 5 minutes after 9. I got to be to church at 9:30, so got to hurry. Seam sealed every seam I could find or get to on the car. Inside, up along the frame. Areas the factory didn't even bother to do, but really should have been done. up inside all the wheel housings. I'm not sure how much light we have here. Spare tire wells, trunk floor, the back panel, everything. Oh, forgot this. Gonna have to get that real quick. Anyway, we devised a way to get this thing picked up by the forklift and get some shots after we start assembling. Harry, we getting ready to inspect everything on this motor before it goes back in, and this bolt here, this stud actually that threads in, had been apparently broken off, and it got drilled out a little off center, which probably could live with, but it was loose. This bolt come up through and was sloppy and loose, and part of the linkage for your clutch attaches to this. So there was no way to hold this head from spinning. And so we pulled this off, see if we could fix it, and it was such a mess because we'd almost have to weld it in there, and you can't because this is aluminum and that's steel. So we grabbed a used bell housing and bead blasted the bell housing. This is what it's supposed to look like, with two studs that permanently thread. You really can't get to the back side here. Where those are, if you look at this side, you can see that they come just flush through. Well, yours was drilled out, and the head of the screw was allowed to just spin around. So there's no way to get a nut on it and start it and tighten it down. I don't know how they managed to do that, because when this is up against your adapter right there, you can't get to the head of the bolts. You have to run a small screwdriver or something in here around the corner to try and get to it, and it was just a mess. So we bead blasted another bell housing, inspected your pulley or your bearing. You did put a new bearing on here, but this is a later style bearing, and it needs a sleeve underneath. This bearing actually could push all the way down and rub on these ears. There's nothing to stop it because it's a newer style bearing. This has to be pressed back off and a spacer put underneath, and this bearing should actually be about 1 to 2 millimeters farther to the left. It's pushed too far down on the shaft. So I'm not sure that it would have disengaged the clutch properly. So I'm glad Rob found this before we put everything back together. You know, so the bell housing bolts were also loose to the transmission. So good thing he is inspected. But again, the clutch and pressure plate and bearing are brand new. And hopefully, if you had the flywheel itself machined, they did that properly, because it looked good. We just didn't mic it. Maybe we ought to mic the depths of that just to ensure that it was done properly. Anyway, the car was painted, and we are currently Scotch-Brite scuffing all of the primer so that we can spray it black. A couple hours it'll be sprayed. Tomorrow we'll start assembly.
You don't want anything out here for open spray.
Got the black on it today. Couple of good coats of this implement hard black. For sound deadening, we're about to spray like a spray-on bed lining material underneath the wheel wells, and on the floors inside. Sound deaden it better. It's fairly lightweight, and yet it's insulating and sound deadening. Get a shot of that after we spray that in there.
This is really good rustproofing.
This is a material called Raptor liner for spraying bed liners for rust proofing, sound deadening.
Yeah, hold it away a little bit. You get a nice texture to it right there. Not that you want to see it, but that second color's in there. Nice color.
Depending on the buildup, it dries in about 1 hour. If you're going to use it real rough, they want you to wait a couple of days. But
it'll never be used rough, apparently. No. Not like it for that.
we sprayed this about 30 minutes ago. It's got a nice texture to it. It's a sound deadening material. We probably got it sprayed on 18 gauge thickness, let's say. Covers nicely. Covers your hands nicely too. Yeah, Steve's going to clean up some that we splattered on the battery frames. I want to keep them looking cleaner. Went ahead and did the trunk floor, side walls, up underneath the sides, both sides. My battery's flashing that it wants to die out. Spare tire wells. We're going to shoot the bottom of the trunk. And the bottom of the spare tire wells, and probably the bottom of the car. But we're going to have to get some more material because we're down to our last quart. Go ahead and mix that up, I think, and spray it yet tonight so it hardens by tomorrow. Front suspension is together. Battery's going dead, so I got to hurry. Heavy duty oversized sway bar mounted on the front. We had to do some spacers and shims for the motor because the motor to bell housing mating surfaces are off, so the motor has to be tipped about 3/8 of an inch higher on this side than that side. Rear motor mounts that I made are in place, both sides. And for extra stability, there is a 5th mount on the back and the lower in the back. The tabs or the ears have been welded back on the frame of the car. And these have been copper plated. The inner lines, I get a better shot of this side, I guess.
Painted.
Inner lines are copper painted?
Yeah.
Okay. But they've been sandblasted and cleaned and
Etch primed and painted.
etch primed and sprayed. Okay, we're going to pull the car in and we'll start assembly, the front end and rear end enter, and tomorrow there'll be a big change.
Okay, they're perfectly safe. They're not.
All right, we're back here. Just charged the battery all night, flashing like there's a problem with it. So I'm thinking the battery in this is bad. So it may shut us off at any moment now. I'll get some still pictures. Batteries in, mounted, and linked. We got copper links built that join them together in series. This cable coming off of here is the last link in this row. of batteries linked together. Going to come through here, route through here, through that grommet in the firewall, come out, comes all the way forward and links to a battery up here. Until we get this all set up, we're not going to cut anything yet. He is right now wiring the main motor to the controller. The controller's been installed. These batteries are being linked up here. Batteries in the trunk are all linked together. You can get a feel of our sound deadening slight texture spray. Came out very nice. It's a little rougher than the paint that the factory uses, but it'll be a sound deadening insulating material. And again, some of these we have to link with cables, some of them we linked with large thick copper jumpers. Now there'll be a wire from here going forward to the batteries, and then this will zigzag all through into the trunk, back up to there, and that terminal there is the one feeding forward to the other bank of batteries up front. So we're running wiring now and wiring the controller, and today the upholsterer gets the seats and we start on the door panels. We're going to be putting the rear axle, I guess the rear axle is in. Brakes have been assembled and put back together. We are running brake lines. We are shortly going to drop this on its wheels once we get everything in here and all of the weight in the car. We have 14-inch aluminum wheels off a 81 300D, 205 70 R14s for the rear, 195 70 R14s for the front, and we're going to see how it sets. We may have to alter the front springs. We may have.
Yep.
Batteries are all in and mounted.
Sure enough.
Wired. We got wire sleeves made to help protect the cables where they might rub. I just charged this thing up and the battery light is flashing, so we have new batteries for the camera due in today. This here is a fusible link. Something goes haywire and gets shorted, these little links will burn out, so we had to put one of those inside the line. Working on the dash. Working on the wiring harness, saving what we can of the wiring harness so we don't have to put a new one in or build a new one. Trying to use up. We'll omit the wires we don't need and use the wires that we do have. The pump, other things will be mounted in, finished up today. This is mounted.
Yeah, there's a bracket up there I had Richard cut off of the car out back.
Okay, the motor is wired in, and the main cables from all the batteries are wired into the controller. Controller is grounded. We had the DC converter mounted here, but it's removed. The brackets are being painted. That'll be back in an hour or so here, and we'll get a shot of it. We got the booster setting in its location so we can mount other things around it. Air canister. Get some shots here. We get a little more wiring done. Get some more wiring here. Run back in. Shrink tube on it. Rob's hooking up the clutch linkage and so on underneath, and we'll be able to put the car on its wheels shortly. Okay, another day. A few more setbacks here, but the DC to DC converter keeps blowing this fuse, and the relays all are wired correctly. I'm going to play with it again tomorrow, but you can see a whole lot more wiring run now. We'll tuck it a little better together, but pretty much everything is wired except the gauges. The major wires are run through. New battery came in today for the camera here, because this battery's flashing again and it's been charged, so it's not doing well. Steve has been making insulated covers, so should anybody lay something across these aren't open. Again, this thing could shut down on me any second now. Battery charger, have to make some adapters for these ends. Got everything wired. We'll be clamping things down. Again, he's been making covers so that you can't accidentally lay something across in here and blow it up. So, all takes time, but it's really got to be done. Some of the switches are hooked up under the dash for testing purposes. We were going to have this rolling on its own today, but we have possibly a short in this unit inside of it. We've spent a couple of hours chasing it down. Blew all the fuses that we had. I'm going out to get some fuses tonight, so we'll get back at it hard tomorrow. Brakes are all hooked up. I've finished making the last brake line from front to back. That'll be put on tomorrow, and maybe we can bleed the brakes and everything then. Get this thing rolled and see what we can do about getting that charging thing problem fixed. We can get around it by making some jumper wires coming off a separate battery, but that would be only a temporary fix just to get the car working. Still working on the mock-up of the. I'm going to take that off in a moment. Made an extension cord. Plug into the new battery charger here. We've gone ahead and made molded plastic covers so no metal or wrenches or anything can be laid on here to cause a problem. You can see the wiring running down both sides. Another set has to come from the dash out to the taillights. Again, all the covers and all the battery ends except the one down here that's disconnected. We had a setback today. Again, this is Friday. You can see we have virtually all the wiring done. We're wiring relays here. The DC to DC converter here has been disconnected and taken out because it is not operating. And that has to operate in order for us to get 12 volts DC to the dash and the dash switches. That energizes the actual controller, so I can't even get the controller operating to get the car moving without that working properly. Here is the pump for the vacuum going over to the vacuum canister. This is the brake reservoir that gets mounted over here right above the brake line. The brake booster, we just got the last components to mount the brake booster. So tomorrow we'll make our last brake line. The car is sitting much more level. For testing purposes, we put 13-inch rims on the front, 14 on the back. There's approximately 3/4 of an inch difference diameter between the tires, and that gives me an idea how the car will set. Tomorrow I'll play with that some more, get some used higher profile tires for the rear, and put the 14-inch rims on the front with a lower profile tire to give us a better idea. But it's balanced out nice. The rear rubber bumpers for the axle are approximately 2 1/4 inches away from bumping, so we've got plenty of spring action left in the rear. The car's not sagging horribly bad. I think we're going to be okay. It's going to look all right. So get some more shots when we have a little more time into this. The seats are going out to the upholsterer finally. We've got them fit and got the headrest bumps exactly where they need to be and all marked out, so we can finish that CAD work and get the form for it machined. We'll get back in a while. Okay, we had a woodworking guy, Rob's brother-in-law, come and pick up this wood because we're not using door glass, we're not using the window regulators, things like that. We got this big void here at the top. So as not to have that, we had him come out. He cut, I think this is ash, but he cut a groove in here, shaved this so it would fit right inside. He glued and stapled this from the back side and added us a nice piece on here. We got some fitting to do, but you can see that it fits pretty nice. It touches on the two ends and a small gap here. So all we're going to do is shave it here a little bit so it closes. We're debating on whether to put that short piece of aluminum trim. It goes full length of the door but only hangs out to here, to trim this off, because being silver and gray leather, you may want some contrast and put a silver polished aluminum molding there. And it lays right on this ledge, so where we've got it marked, we're going to trim that wood out a little bit. I marked it here because it lays on this channel. We no longer need that channel, so we're going to cut across here where these steel rivets are holding this channel. A channel is for the little fuzzy cat whiskers that guide the glass. We're not using them, won't be using them. We're going to cut these right off. We started working on it here with a saw, but the pin is hard steel, so we're just going to get a regular grinding stone and just blow it right out of there. That will allow the wood that he's extended more room to drop inside the door for better strength. And again, this will be leather wrapped. The door panel will come up and match it at the top. So both of the pieces of wood are done that way. So today I'm going to mess with that. And I'm fitting that. We're going to start building the wall here that's going to come up and shield the batteries. Going to work on that today as well. We'll get back as we get this fit in and get the wood formed for the door tops. Grill pieces came back from the chrome plater. It's hard, you know, back here without light reflecting and so on. They're actually quite nice. The lower is a little bit thicker than the original. We'll see how it goes together. We did not bother to put the studs back on here. It's really not necessary, and it many times gets in the way of putting the grill in properly. But came out pretty nice. We'll get this together and and kind of test fit it to the car and make sure everything works properly. Okay, not real impressive, but the motor is spinning and the wheels are turning on their own. We have no load, of course, on it. I don't know if it needs to sense load or what, but it is spinning. Braking system is in. We still have relays to put in here. Brakes are totally in. These fans have kicked on as soon as it started spinning much of a load. And the motor is actuated. Has a little chirp to it we're not sure about, but it is operational. Tires are spinning. We're going to put it on the ground and see if we can't get it to move. If it doesn't seem to be giving the kind of power we need, we have to record data from the controller and send it to the controlling company, the ones that made it, and find out if there's anything wrong with it. Hopefully not. So we're going to drop this thing on the ground and see if we can't get it to move. Apart, saving what we can save off from it. Not going to be able to save the trim board, quite warped. You can see all the warps and stuff that I've already set in. We're trying to save the armrest wood and armrest pocket. And some of the nails came out hard. Some of the screws and nails fell out, which is an indication of rotted wood. If the wood is rotted only around the nail or the screw, we can move to a new location and still use the wood. If it's broken or, rotted away, we're going to have to replace whatever we can't have to with the wood. So we're in the process now of taking both door panels apart. The new door panel trim package is here. If we can save everything here, then we'll be rebuilding the two door panels. Otherwise, we'll look for used or have to make some pieces for it. This is the door pocket. Even a California car, look at that. I'm not sure if we bead blast that, if we're going to have any metal left.
It'll be real thin.
We'll find out. We're going to take it back in the cabinet and blast it because it is so full of rust that both sides that way?
Yeah, well,
not as bad. Yeah, that pocket there is.
The whole back end of this is really bad.
The wood is...
You can tell it's already rough.
Wood's really dry. We'll see if we can't save it. The other side's going to be just as bad. This wood savable?
Yeah,
it's really dry?
It's really dried out and split where most of your screws go in.
I'll see if I've gotten... I made new ones about 10 years ago. Let me see if I got any left. Peel that stuff off and let's see what condition that foam is in. We'll get some shots later as we actually start assembly. These are pretty nasty. We're not sure what we're going to be able to use of them. All right. Colin spent the day tracking down and talking with this company here, hooking his laptop up to the controller, downloading data, sending it to them. Anyway, make a long story short, we're not picking up data through this wire properly. It's not making it to the encoder or making it to the controller. And look where this little wire goes. It originates inside the back of the motor. Right here. Okay? There may be an encoder problem inside the back of the motor. The good news is he's tracked it down to not getting proper data through this cable. The bad news is it's inside the motor. The bolts holding the cover on are 13 inches long. They go all the way through the motor into the bell housing. There are nuts on the other side. The only way to get to them is to pull all of this out, remove the motor and transmission completely out on a bench, disassemble it, then he can get to the encoder, possibly test it to find out what's wrong. And to top it off, the motor assembly is no longer in warranty because it was sold in 2006. So we're at this stage right now. On a positive side, we got the grill fit back in, reassembled. It looks beautiful. Fits quite well. Very minor tweaking to fit the grill in. We will know tomorrow. They are sending us a box. It's a noise reduction box. This cable has to be cut, the box put in over here on the side. It was a modification they did in early 2007. They actually sent the box to Electro Automotive in California, who did not forward it, as far as I know. I shouldn't make that statement, I guess. As far as I know, they did not forward the repair, if you will, onto Harry. So we've not gotten the revision of the motor. Apparently the motor was kind of noisy, when they call it noisy, like static noise from the encoder to the controller. So they put a noise reduction electronic device inside this wiring, which is cut, and then part of it goes in the box and part of it comes out the other end, and there must be some sort of capacitors or whatever that take some of the noise away. So this company here, Azure Dynamics, has sent us one. We'll have it tomorrow. We're going to put that in and see if there's any change whatsoever. And we're going to test the output to the leads of this plug. We do not know what this is. We'll be asking them what that is also. There may possibly be a problem inside of here in the wiring. Or if it's inside the motor, we're in big trouble because all of this has to be removed and the motor and transmission pulled back out. And then it's not under warranty anyway. So we'll cross that bridge when we get to it tomorrow. As of today, not much more I can do. I'm going home. We'll get some shots of our progress tomorrow. Hang on. All right, here we got your door top pieces. As I talked to you, I think I showed you some pictures already of the wood we had extended on here. We're doing some filling with Duraglass to blend them. Your dash was higher than the door piece, and now it blends in pretty nice together here. These are not bolted in yet, but they're fit in. You can see the doors are fit onto the body, so you can see we've got a decent fit here. The doors add a little weight to the car, so we want as much weight on here as possible. The wheels are finished today, powder coated and baked, and they will be in tomorrow. So we will be, even though Colin's messing with electronics here, we're going to continue to do some fitting of tires, wheels, that kind of thing, to balance out get that front end down and the back end up. But you can see the wood fits better, comes up to this point. It fills the gap here. Again, this will be on here like that, squeezed in. Leather will be on here. We're thinking we may put these moldings we talked to you about. We left the big moldings off, but to give you a contrast between the silver here and the gray leather, there is a small aluminum molding that will snap right into here that finishes just this top of this edge. I'm going to polish up your old ones and fit them on just to kind of see what it looks like. And we'll do that and talk to you and determine whether you want the new aluminum ones or not. Tomorrow I find out whether I'm high bidder on the steering wheel I'm trying to get you. I'm going to have to custom make a hub to mount it to your steering shaft because it's got a great big flanged hub on it here. It's a black leather wrapped Nardi wheel. This, I believe, is 18 inches in diameter. And I believe the Nardi comes in at 14, if I'm not mistaken. What do we got there? It's 17 3/4, and I think the Nardi is either 13.5 or 14. So it's not too bad, too small. And again, without power steering, you don't want a 12-inch or whatever steering wheel. So we'll see how that works out. We should be the owner of that by tomorrow and get that shipped in. And like I said, I may have to custom make a hub. Again, I think we showed this before. This is all filled, welded in, and filled with the imperfections filled with Duraglass. So you've got no open holes in the cowl there. Well, we're hoping very much that we do not have to tear this motor back out of here, and I'll be calling the customer and discussing our options, because we just don't know what's going to happen there yet. This is nearly the end of July. I believe this is the 29th, and need to have this thing done. I prefer to have this done and painted in 2 weeks, and so we can do some testing. But it looks like it's going to be more like 3. So a lot of work ahead of us yet. We'll get some shots tomorrow after we get the hood fit on, and I think the deck lid is already fit. Yeah, forgot to film that. We put this brace in here, and depending on the tension of the brace, how it's put in, we can actually alter this arch. So when the brace was put in and clamped, if you don't have it adjusted properly, this actually will bow up. So we wanted to fit the deck lid. It seems to fit quite well. So we can adjust that by taking a washer or whatever out. We can actually bow this up slightly. So we'll see how that deck lid fits when we get everything adjusted and a seal in it. So again, we'll get some more shots tomorrow. We'll find out probably by noon tomorrow whether that motor has to be removed or not.
Okay, now I'm recording.
You got it in reverse before. Kind of a bitch to steer with
Oh, there's some more bodywork.
you gotta hit that stuff.
Hang on. telling you to call your dad. This is going to make a good day out of, well, a better day out of a not so good morning. And she rolls. So this mean you don't gotta pull the motor?
Probably not. Seems to go good. Yeah, it
Yay.
didn't seem to be shaking real bad. It don't go too bad. It shakes bad when it's in neutral, but you really shouldn't rev the engine in neutral real crazy anyway.
Sweet. All right.
This is a full-size styrofoam block that we are cutting for the headrest bumps. Once this is cut and fit and shaped, we'll have to trim the bottom of it as well. The cutter's dropping 3/4 of an inch at a time. It will later come back over the top and clean all that up. It's cutting approximately 90 inches per minute. It's been going at this for about 3 hours. 2 hours to 3 hours. And it'll keep on going, of course, until it's finished, but it's going to be cutting, it's 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 steps down. It's going to go to about 8 1/2 to 8 3/4 inches down. So it's got about 4 to 5 more steps to go down. And then when we get this machine and set it on the car, we'll have a really good idea of what it's going to look like. I do not believe that these will be able to be used to form the actual panel, but it will give us an idea of what we're going to need. And then I'll mock up a big block like this out of laminated wood, and then we'll carve this all over again out of that laminated wood. And then that laminated wood can go to a molder, and he can mold a polycarbonate or a plastic vacuum formed panel that will go over that, over the batteries, and give us the kind of the headrest look. So we'll get some shots as this is about finished. The roughing cut is finished. And now we're doing the finish cutting. It's going to take some time. It's moving over 100 thousandths of an inch each pass to clean this up. Because of the foam, we've got to have a vacuum cleaner next to it at all times, or it is an absolute mess.
Well, it's still kind of a mess.
Not as bad.
No. What?
Yeah.
Even with this little cutter, it still makes little crap fly all over.
Yeah.
So it's boring.
We'll get some more shots in a little while. This will give us a really good idea of the shape. We're going to fit it to the car, make sure that we like it and that Harry likes it. This is a lot of work for this these humps, but if we don't do it, we may end up making something that it doesn't fit well or that the customer just doesn't like. So we have to go the extra mile, so to speak, and get this done. We'll get some shots of it as we get a little farther. We'll get some shots fitting it on the car. July 31st, 2009. Okay, the trimming is finished. This has to be cut right along that edge across the back here and right on around, because that's the shape of the body. I'm not sure. They're symmetrical right and left. I'm not sure I like the dip here. I'm going to talk to the programmer tomorrow, to Colin tomorrow. I like this crispness here and this radius. I like this a little bit crisper, I think. The problem is that the back of the car rises up here, and this is approximately 3 inches higher than the corners, than actually the front corners. There's like a 3-inch rise back to here. In the middle there's an 1.5 inch rise to there, back to the other corners. I can lower that, crisp that radius maybe up, make them a little more, teardrop shaped. See what they look like. I'll get a picture off to Harry tonight, see what he thinks. But this is the actual size of what the headrest will be. Of course, this is from the back. I'm not going to unclamp this from the mill until I see if we're going to do something with the very center there. I'll take some still shots, and then we'll get some shots after we trim this down. If we have to make any alterations, then we'll trim it down and fit it to the car. Recutting this, I didn't like it. I didn't like the radiuses on the outside and inside. We had a little humpty hump right there, didn't like. Colin and I spent about 2.5–3 hours modifying the CAD data. And you'll notice that there's a radius change here. It's sharper. This is less sharp here. There's no humpty hump here in the middle like it had before. And that curvature area is going to be lowered 1 inch. So we're going to have a little crisper radius across flat and coming up. We'll get a shot of it here after about another 45 minutes. It's going to be done.
Oh, hooray!
But you can see the difference. I lowered everything 1 inch because I wanted to change primarily that radius and that radius. Streamlined the back of it here. A little sanding to do here. But I think it's going to look a lot better. We're going to get like I said, we'll know in about 45 minutes. This is about an hour and a half later.
An hour, pretty much.
About an hour?
About an hour.
Might be hard to see, but like I said, we changed the radiuses.
Technically, the plural of radius is radii. Also, I'd really like to go buy pie right now.
Kevin's craving pie.
Chocolate cream pie.
Chocolate cream pie.
$5.37 at Walmart.
$5.37. These are all interesting facts that the video probably doesn't need to know, but
I'm not. Just saying, it'd be great to have.
see quite a bit of difference here. When he gets done, maybe tomorrow, which will be Sunday, trim this up and fit it to the car, get some pictures of it on the car. That'll look pretty neat. This is coming out exactly as I had hoped, and much nicer than the last one. There's a lot of transition on the back of the car on the curves around the sides.
It's just cutting out a ton.
And so, all right, we'll get some shots as we're getting it ready to put on the car. Okay, the trimming is finished. We have to keep in mind that this whole compartment of the car is arched at the back here, 3.5 inches difference from here to here, and at the front here approximately 1.5 inches difference. So everything has to slope. So even though this is cut looking like it's leaning forward, it will be picked up. The front leading edges of these will be tipped back, and everything will slope upward. So it's lower there, higher here. It's at about the plane it will be in. This will have to be trimmed all along here. This is much more symmetrical. I changed the radiuses from what they were before. This is a 2-inch radius now instead of a 1/2 to a 1. This is also a 2-inch radius. Same thing on the other side. There's no bump in here. There's no ridge in the side. This imperfection here is where we cut out to clamp it down, because you have to hold this thing down, of course, to the mill to run it. This will be taken off of here, trimmed along these edges here, fit to the car, and then we'll photograph it to see what Harry thinks of it sitting on the car. I think they're a lot more symmetrical. I like the way they look. I think this is going to fly. This is going to be all right. Here they are, trimmed up, set on the car. Now again, this is just styrofoam, and this area here, we had a clamp in there. Seeing how we cut this twice, we cut down near the clamp, so that would be filled. This is an 18-inch piece of foam. It needed to be 19. So we do not have the curvature. There's another inch of material missing, which when we cut the wood form will be there. And that inch of material will give us a slope. It might be 1.5 inches. So that when the seat sets in here, this has a curvature to it. I just didn't get a large enough piece of foam to do everything. Would have fit the mill, we just ended up somehow getting it 1 inch shorter. This will give us an idea. This fits the body line, and this is we had to take multiple measurements. You'll see lines and, almost like a graph drawn on the car. We pulled straight edges across, drop lines all around, so that we could figure this contour here. When this is made, it's got to fit pretty much in here. We're going to go ahead and put one of those aluminum channels here to kind of trim this off. But that's a general idea of how it's going to be, how it's going to fit. Little trimming here will close that gap up at the back. That's how she's going to look from the rear. I think Harry's going to like it. You can still see some small imperfections in the CAD, where the surface is met. You can see a tiny little ridge here. I mean, it's very small, but you can see it. You can see at the back here, this bumps up slightly above the body line, and we can sand that out either in a wood form or this. So it gave us a lot of trouble because of all these compound curves coming together and then stopping right here. So this is the best we can get drawing this. I really like it. The radiuses look good. They're not overpowering. Get a feel for how the windshields with the headrest pieces are going to fit. Again, that thing's just kind of sitting there, mounted and laying on foam. The final injection piece or these are going to fit. Again, that thing's just kind of sitting there, mounted and laying on foam. The final injection piece or the final vacuum formed piece will not be that thick. We'll put a face or glue a face into it coming down, but it's probably only going to be around 1/4 to 3/8 thick in material, and come up and over. Give us plenty of access point here for the batteries. We'll figure out a way to hinge it, probably tip it or hinge it forward, or have a removable panel. But we're trying to keep the weight nice and light, so it's going to be a huge vacuum form machine that'll pull that down over top of a wooden form. This is just kind of the beginning. We're going to be still having to carve a wooden form. So we'll get this off the customer and see what he thinks. Give you an idea. Talk to the customer. Something we probably should have done before now, because a lot of the bodywork in this area is finished. He does not want to see this lip. He wants the hump panel area to blend in with a body line similar to what we have here. Small gap and a roll over. He'd like a body line like you see on the trunk and like you see on the hood. This is a Sunday afternoon, late actually, Sunday evening. And I've cut away nearly half of the lip and then turned the heat down on the welder, and I've fused the panels together all the way down to here. Now there's a jog in the original car here. Not sure what we'll do. We may have to put some weld here to make it more uniform. Not sure yet. We'll play with that tomorrow. We still have a tiny lip here, but that's because the body was dented in through here, and they used some small amount of Duraglass to blend that in before, and I had to carve that away. So there is a small lip. When we fill that back with Duraglass, it should come right up and roll right over the edge. What we have to try and do is to keep in shape of this edge here, so that when the panel is made and dropped in, the panel meets this shape. And this is not flat. It rises up here, curves this corner, comes up, and becomes a much smaller arch through here. So everything from this point out is real critical not to warp too much. So Monday I'll grind the rest of this out. We'll have to grind this back to here with fresh metal. Use some Duraglass and blend this all in. Check the fit of this again back into here so that everything fits. And I've got this well protected with a tarp and wood, because there are batteries under here that cannot have hot weld drip onto them and melt a hole through the top. So very carefully protected everything. There's about 6 layers of material there that we can't burn through. So we'll get back on Monday when we get the rest of that ground and welded, filled, and then we'll fit that hump area back. We're going to try and pick up the seats and get them back here and set them in place if he hasn't got them all torn down yet, and check how the fit of the seats to the humps are. This is all been cut down all the way around now, completely sheared off, welded, ground down flush. We're going to build probably a small angle iron piece off of this wall, but we're going to have to build it because this is not a vertical wall, and angle iron comes 90 degrees. This is angled down. So we'll build something or press break something that comes up and then out. We have to do that before the car is painted. We can't get in these chambers to put nuts on the back. We got to be very careful screwing screwing things on here. But we'll blend this in. Welding something this thin without a reinforcement causes ripples. So we're dialing that out. We got some small high and low spots. We'll get it as close as possible and then use a chopped fiberglass mixture called Duraglass, which is a really strong body filler. And we'll blend this in across from the deck lid over. I have the component here painted. That's going to go on. Not around the perimeter, but the entire face and the body is painted. Rob's picking up one seat is torn apart and being reupholstered. The other seat we're going to grab and bring back and set in here so that we can see what this looks like. So he'll be back within half hour, and we'll go ahead and by that time the paint might be dry. It is raining today, so everything's going to take a little longer to dry. But we'll get some shots after we get the headrest assembly put back in with the seat setting in here so we can get a feel for what it looks like. We have the new DC converter. It's different shapes, so different mountings mounted up on here with rubber underneath of it so it's cushioned. We have heavier duty relays. They sent us the wrong relays. They sent us 125 volt relays for in here. And when you hook all those batteries up, you get about 200 volts. So this particular relay fried. I don't know if we showed that or not when it cooked. So the company we had been dealing with, we're actually outsourcing to other companies. So Colin has found another company. He's getting the correct relays. You can't put 216 volts to a 125 volt relay. Kind of gets warm inside. So this one's new. He's changed all of the connectors to a fully insulated connector so they can't be bumped or pushed into one another. The vacuum pump relay, we put a relay in so that wires the vacuum pump so it only fires from the relay so low voltage can feed the relay. The DC converter is operational and does fire power to the vacuum pump and other things, gauges, switches. Most of the body wiring is run. You can see it out here to the headlight area down here. Obviously we don't have headlights mounted yet, so parking, most of the wiring that we're going to be needing under the dash is pulled through, and the wiring that's going to be needed in the trunk is pulled through. We have cut off that flange and re-welded the material together, and we're using a Duraglass filler. The car apparently has been sideswiped at one time in its life. This area here is a big low dip. Uses much filler. But that'll be repaired today as well. So the wiring is pulled into the trunk. You can see it stubbed out for the taillights, both sides. We just got an adapter to hook to this camera, and that adapter will allow me to download everything off the camera onto our computer, and it'll be available on our website. So that'll be nice. This is actually the potentiometer that is hooked to the existing or the original accelerator linkage that we cut and modified. The gas pedal sits just a little bit higher than normal, but we can't help that. The potentiometer has more travel than the original linkage was designed for. We've got it about as good as we're going to get it. The controller has been pulled. Factory requested the controller back to upgrade to a newer version of inside the so that we can properly hook up an electronic tachometer and speedometer. So that's back. We got some cover plates here on both sides, a grommet running through for the vacuum to the booster. Got a little bit of dust. We got these filled. I'm not positive I'm going to leave them that way, but for now those are filled. It gets out. We're out.